Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler's WPblab. It's Thursday. It's 7:30-ish. It's time to hit the go button. We hit the go button. Hey, folks, how's it going? I hope you're really enjoying everything. Hopefully, the folks that are over in the East Coast are doing okay over in Florida. If things are going well over there, I see a few of those people are in the chat, so that's awesome. Thank you for braving the weather and whatnot to watch us. I appreciate it. Bridget, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. A funny story. So I'm wearing my WP Crowd shirt because I like to wear my swag on Blab. So I went to a deli to just get the sandwich. I was thinking about the sandwich, and I normally don't even. Nice swag there, buddy. Anyway, so this guy walks up to me and he goes, "You want to tell me about your shirt?"
You're not supposed to kill the guest before she even says a word.
I go, it's an internet show and a website. I said the WP stands for WordPress. He goes, WordPress? I go, yeah. And he goes, do you use WordPress? I go, I'm the marketing manager for a WordPress plugin shop called WordPress, and our flagship plugin is Give. It's for online donations and donor management. Like, I totally went into my thing, right? And he goes, oh, really? And I said, yeah. He goes, I have a nonprofit. Here's my card. Send me an email. Don't forget.
Nice.
I was like, what? A lead from a t-shirt? Does that happen in real life? I just started giggling like hysterically.
And what's funny is it wasn't even Give.
I know. I
know. You're wearing somebody else's t-shirt.
But they bought new women's Give shirts, and they came in today, and I get mine on Tuesday.
Nice.
So
that's
for
awesome.
Now, it's WP Crowd. Have you tried deactivating and activating your plugins yet? So that's my intro.
Awesome.
Serendipity with my nerd shirt.
Sweet. So we do have a guest tonight. Bridget and I have been kind of figuring out a couple changes to the show, a little bit of format changes, and just trying to figure out, like, what is it that folks want here. We can't really do the full-on interactive chat thing where people can hop into the video chat and start talking with us like we've done in the past, because we're just using a totally different system now. So it's like, how about we just pull in guests and pull in awesome people that, interview amazing people. So Kitty interviewed me, and so I thought, well, obviously.
Obviously, if I think you're amazing, you have to think I'm amazing.
Exactly.
That's just how things work.
So tell us a little bit about you, Kitty. What do you do? Where are you from? All those fun things.
So the standard introduction, we do this like at our local bloggers meetup in Las Vegas. We all go around, we get like 30 seconds to introduce ourselves. And usually my intro is, hi, I'm Kitty, I'm a blogger. And that's about the end of it. But now I'm not competing with a room full of people. So yes. Hi, I'm Kitty, and I'm a professional blogger.
Ooh, see how she added something a little different there.
So fancy.
So I work out of my house. I'm near Las Vegas. I started off freelancing to make money, kind of because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was just convincing other people to pay me to do it, to learn. That worked out great. Now I mostly monetize my own website. I have a couple of clients here and there that I like too much to dump. One of them is my mom, so I really can't get rid of that client. And I changed my blog from a book blog, which it was years ago, to sort of a business blog around the business of blogging, how to make money doing that, how to work out of your house. And it's been going great. Been doing that for about a year now with the business blog.
That's awesome. When you transitioned from doing a book blog to doing your own blog, did you change the domain name, or did you keep that?
I kept the domain name because the domain is my name. It's kittylusby.com. And what was happening was people were Googling me after I would speak, thinking that they were going to find more information about, blogging and making money and freelancing and building traffic, because that's what I would speak about. And then they would find this really nerdy book blog for like teenage girls, talking about which book boyfriends I had a crush on as a teenager. So it was really confusing people. And finally I was like, I think I need to rebrand and give people, when they're Googling me and they're Googling my blog after hearing me speak, they should be finding what they're actually looking for. So it was a nightmare process. taking, 2 years of blogging and dumping all of it. I kept literally one blog post from the past. And you can find that if you dig through the archives. It's about a dog that got lost in my hometown and got found after a few months in the wild. Very heartwarming. And I put up a bunch of new content. I rebuilt everything kind of on my live site as quickly as I could so that I didn't have a lot of downtime. I lost a few thousand followers.
Whoa.
Wow.
I mean, to be fair, if you change from nerdy book blog to business blog and most of the people following you are 14 to 21-year-old girls,
Might be a different demographic.
there's a whole bunch of them. But I was like, whatever, I built it once, I can do it again. And I'm working on rebuilding it. I'm getting close to where I was, which is great. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I think it's also more valuable now than it used to be. Because you can talk about Harry Potter in all sorts of places on the internet, but getting actual valid business advice is a little harder to find.
Or at least
Get a
the
lot of
spells
weird
that you need
stuff
to say, right? In order to be able to get those.
Oh my God.
I'm still super nerdy, so the nerd aspect is still there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, we were talking earlier about the last couple of days here about this particular topic and how we were going to approach it. And, what have you talked about this in the past? And like, how do you approach blogging for, target demographic?
So, I mean, I've talked a lot to clients about this because one of the biggest problems that most blogs have, and business blogs, personal blogs, all across the board, is that they're blogging with what they feel like. They're kind of online journaling. And they realize very quickly that just because you write something, that doesn't mean anybody's going to read it.
Mm.
So one-on-one, I've had this conversation about 1 million times.
Mhm.
With clients, I've had this conversations 1 million times each, except for the one, Andrew Domino, who runs the Bloggers Meetup in Las Vegas. He's fantastic. I've worked with him. He's wonderful. He gets it. He just gives you money and says, do what you're going to do. It's wonderful. That's the right kind of client. They give you money and say, do what you're going to do.
That's awesome.
But, and I've always had sort of this aspect of blogging specifically for your demographic in the talks that I give at WordCamps and at writers groups and things like that, but never a full-on talk about how to find these people, how to figure out who's reading your blog, and how to connect with those people specifically. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I wish I knew how to target the demographics that I'm going for, but I'd also like to know who the demographics is that I should be targeting. So I have both issues to deal with, right?
Well, by 9 p.m. you're going to know.
I hope so. Bridget, how have you looked at this sort of thing of being able to figure out what your demographic is and then how to target them?
So I do everything backwards.
Yeah.
People ask me social media questions and I answered them. And that's how you too can be a guru was born. Because if I'll answer it for one person, I'm answering it for the world. Just to make my life easier so I could send the next person the link. So I wrote, and then an audience found me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I stayed on that whole, the only thing I've deviated is I added a little tiny layer of WordPress, but still social media on BridgetWiller.com.
That's basically brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And as I have said in the past, I just blog for me, and hopefully I'll Google something and then find my own article, and then I'm like, yes, this guy's. Oh wait, that's me. That's awesome. At least now I know how to rebuild that Linux box, or how to restart this thing, or how to build some who knows what.
Yeah.
I'm always just writing about these goofy little things that no one will ever look at, and then people look at them, and I'm like, oh, I have a demographic.
Yeah, but Kitty's right. It's more complicated when you have a business. Mm-hmm. So let's give, for example, we have lots of different audiences. We have developers. We have people that work at nonprofits. So those can be totally different people. Yeah. It could be like a super nerd, or it could be somebody who is a secretary at a nonprofit. It could be a nonprofit board member. I mean, it's all over the place. So we're trying to straddle that content calendar that addresses both audiences without alienating the others.
That's a lot of fun.
Our businesses are complex like that, right, Kitty?
Mm-hmm. Some of them are and some of them aren't. Some of them are really good at specializing with a very narrow group of people. And some blogs you write and you attract just bizarre people. One of my earliest experiences with search engine optimization, when it used to tell you what people Googled to get to your site, the search terms, I was a book blogger and somebody found my blog by searching exploding bodies in mausoleums.
Oh my God.
Now, I never said that phrase anywhere on my site, and I have no idea how they got there with that phrase.
Talk about long tail keyword.
Right.
And then I was like, maybe I should like exploit this. Maybe I should write a post. Maybe there's a book about this. Like, no.
Oh, man.
But you'll find some outliers. You'll find some really cool people coming to your site. And the great thing about demographic research is that you're guessing at first, and you get like this vague, nebulous idea of the kind of people you might have on your site, but your audience is 100% unique. And the people in it are 100% unique. So you have wiggle room, and you have the ability to make friends with these people, and that's wonderful. So you're gonna have all sorts of people, all kinds of stuff. Your audience is never gonna be what you thought it was gonna be, but once you start building an audience, you can ask them. That's what blogging is. It's 2 ways. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I guess it's tough for folks that have never received a comment or haven't received a good comment, where it's just like, yeah, man, that's great. You know, it's like, thanks. I'm so glad you spent the time to write that eloquent response. I really appreciate it. But it's like how do you?
Well, for me, that's a read. You know that hit was a read, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no other purpose except for that hit was a read.
So what you're saying is that the guy who's trying to sell Viagra off your website actually did write the blog post. Okay.
Do you ever go through your spam folder and look at the stuff that's in Chinglish and try to make poems out of it?
Right.
Oh my God.
Poems. That's awesome.
You're gonna make me laugh. I'm gonna pee my pants.
It's the Chinglish spam haiku.
Oh man,
Totally.
we're an hour 15 minutes late. Don't make me laugh too much.
Oh,
We'll
man.
forgive you if you have to take a break.
Thank you.
So target demographic, like
Mm-hmm.
finding that target demographic. You know, like Bridget was saying, you know, she's starting to write a few things and then she knows what the target demographic is. You, on the other hand, you were writing about something, somebody somehow figured out, you know, used a keyword that wasn't mentioned in your post at all, but then they found you, and then you're sitting there
Mm-hmm.
questioning yourself, like, should I start blogging with that keyword?
Mm-hmm.
Should I start doing, like, where do people begin with this? Like, it's almost like we need to take one step back before we totally get into this whole target demographic piece.
So there's 2 schools of thought on like where to start finding your market and blogging. The one group of people who are hardcore marketers, they think you should start with an underserved market need. You should go do some market research and figure out what people are looking for that they're not getting and start a blog or a business around that. Most people don't do it that way. If you're going to start blogging, you usually start with the topic, and then you start working on finding the audience for that topic. And since most people do it that way, we'll talk more about that. Step 1 is to make sure your topic's narrow enough. And I know it's super confusing to think the more specific and the less stuff you blog about, the more people are actually going to read your blog. But if you think about it, most people eat food, right? But if you like Indian food that you can cook in 30 minutes or less, there's a lot of people who are going to agree with you. But if you like Indian food that you can cook in 30 minutes or less and non-GMO recipes, and you also like, you know, cheap meals, and you like desserts, it's a lot harder to find people with all 4 of those interests than it is to find people who have just one. The more variables you add, the smaller your audience is going to get, because they're not going to come to read just the one post and leave. That's not what you want them to do. You want them to be part of the community. And if they're coming in for one thing and seeing other stuff, they're going to leave because they're like, oh, this isn't for me. I don't like all of these things. I only like one of them. So if you stay with one thing that's specific enough, your audience grows a lot bigger, because there's a lot of other people who are interested in one thing that you're interested in. There's not a lot of other people who are interested in everything you're interested in. So staying narrow enough is the first big challenge. And then you got to start finding the readers. I guarantee you're not the only person who's ever blogged about your topic. If you are, I'll give you $1 because you're a genius. People say everything's been done, and it kind of has. It might have a different twist on it. You're always going to be unique. You're always going to have your own perspective, but you can find other people who are doing the same thing, and that's a great place to start. Decide on your topic and get it super narrow so that it's really one interest that a lot of people might share with you or might not. And then I say you should start on Facebook. Look for Facebook groups. In the Facebook search feature, you can search specifically for groups. Find the groups that are similar to your topic or a subset of your topic. More specific is always better. So if you're talking about cooking Indian food, you don't want to find the Facebook group about we like to eat food. You want to find the Facebook group about, traditional Indian cooking, or Indian cooking for people who have never had Indian food, or how to use spices. Find groups that are active and spend a long time kind of going down that rabbit hole. Read their posts. See what other blog posts they're sharing into the group. What questions are they asking? You can find a lot of great search keywords, because most people are not going to ask a question in a Facebook group or in a forum until they've Googled it. And you already know what words they're using to Google it. So that's already post material for you. It makes it a lot easier. And people put their lives on Facebook. So you can even go to the profiles of the most active people and see what their other interests are and get kind of a picture of a person in your mind to be able to talk directly to them. Then you can go to Google and search specifically for forums. If you type in URL in Google, it'll look for the word forum in the URL, so you can find specifically forums. And then you can find online forums with your keyword, Indian cooking, whatever, and do the same thing over and over again. It's not a fast process, but it's useful.
So you're still doing market research. You're just not doing it before you start.
Right. So you're still going to get market research, especially if you plan to make money from your blog. If you're making money from your blog, it's a business, so you should treat it like a business. The idea that you're going to start a blog and whoops, accidentally fell into a pile of money today, that's not super realistic.
Right.
Luck is not a great strategy for your future. Luck generally doesn't buy you groceries, maybe once in a while. But for the most part, if you're counting on this, if this is the career that you want to have, then you should put some effort into it. And another cool thing is you're going to find other people who are attracting this audience. So people you can work with. There's no such thing really as competition in the blogging world. If they're a good blogger, generally they're going to share traffic with you. They're going to want to promote on your website, let you promote on theirs. It's a lot of fun to do it that way. Thus, I'm here and you're on my blog and we're all a happy family.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, in the chat, they're talking about personas and having this kind of feels like developing a persona. Do you agree with that?
Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. I see blogging as not so much developing like a false personality or a persona, as much as choosing which aspects of your real personality you can put out there, because an individual person is super, super complicated. I mean, we have lots of likes and dislikes. We are all super individual, and that doesn't translate well online. I mean, you read people's Facebook posts that you've known forever, and you're like, wow, they're kind of a jerk online. But in person, they're really nice. But it's because things don't carry over so well. So it's not so much developing a persona as it is figuring out how you can better connect and have this two-way communication with people. You're looking for your common ground. And you can develop a persona. If you're branding and you don't want your face on it, like you're making a clothing brand or a dating brand, you want to have a company, you want to have multiple bloggers, your brand standards are going to be based around this community. And a brand is sort of like a persona.
Writing down some show notes for all you folks that aren't writing any notes down. I really suck at notes, so I'm sorry, folks.
That's a disclaimer. You should be taking your own.
So when you're talking about a target demographic, though, there's personas with the audience. So when you're starting this blog, you're thinking, I am blogging to the woman who is between 30 and 60 years old, who wants to learn how to do social media for their small business. That's my persona. I'm figuring out who that person is when I'm writing. So I write to this person likes computers, but maybe doesn't know intricacies of Facebook. They can follow videos online. And so do you use that kind of an audience hypothesis / persona in order to start? And then when you when they interact with you via comments, you know, sort of fiddle and tinker with that to generate content in the future?
Sort of. You're always going to tweak as you interact with your actual community, because a theoretical community of other people's readers is not the same thing as your community of people who are actually reading your blog, and it never will be. But rather than thinking of them as this vague, nebulous audience of faceless people who have these traits, it's more of trying to make them more human in your eyes. You're trying to find out more about them and the interest that they share and the reason that they're coming to your site. The whole reason you're doing this is you're trying to figure out, why are these people going to these blogs? Why would they come to my blog? Because nobody's coming to your blog and reading your posts because you want them to come to your blog and read your posts. They're coming because they want to get something out of it. They're going to have some value from you. And when you can answer the question, why are these people coming to my website? Why are people going to come and get value out of this? What are they looking for? Then you can give that to them a lot more effectively, and it'll attract a lot more people. And then you can interact directly with them through your comments and through your social media pages, through Snapchat, through the emails that they send you directly and the questions that they ask. And then you can refine more and more and more. It makes it a lot easier too if you do this research and then you think through the people that you actually know and say, who do I know in real life who would read this blog? And come up with 2 or 3 actual human beings that you already know. They don't have to be like your best friend or your mom. And hopefully your mom reads your blog. My mom reads my blog like once every 6 months, and it's great. I love it. But when you have actual people in mind, especially when you know 2 or 3 people and you recognize that they're very different human beings, but they all share this interest, that's where the sweet spot is, because you're not talking to a demographic. You're talking to individual people. And that's the real power of blogs, especially for business, is that it's not people in suits with a marketing degree talking to a demographic. It's a person behind a computer talking to people behind their computers. And it's a two-way conversation where there's mutual respect. Nobody's trying to trick anybody. Right. You can ask questions, you can answer questions. It's really wonderful. If you do it correctly.
I like that you brought that up, because there is a writer that I love. His name is Adam Fout. And he's a content marketer for Blue Steel Solutions. Mm-hmm. And every time I read his blog, I'm like, oh, Adam, this is resonating. It's like you're writing for me. It says I am.
Yeah.
So but of course, so every time he writes a blog post, I stop what I'm doing and I go and read it, you know? So I really agree that happens, and that's a good strategy. But I know that you want to think of that one person, but how much do you use Google Analytics and that data to influence either your future content or
so your strategy? You can't force an audience to like something that they don't like. No matter how much market research you do, it's important to look at what posts are the most popular, what's getting shared the most on your website, what people are interacting with, what questions they're asking. Because if you are blogging about cheap Indian recipes and you have one recipe about like, hey, this isn't particularly cheap and it's not fast, but this is a really authentic recipe for samosas, and that's your top post by a lot, well, that's your audience telling you, we like your cheap recipes, but we really like samosas. So maybe you should give us more of that. And you have to be willing to evolve, even if it's not necessarily what you want to do for yourself. There has to be some compromise of you serving them. So pay attention to what's going on your site, because that's your audience communicating with you directly. Another really, really cool source for demographic information is magazines. If there's a magazine or a trade journal that's very similar to your topic, you can go to their website, go to their marketing page where they have the advertise with us thing, and they will have a fact sheet about their audience, which is their demographic sheet for marketers. It'll tell you the average age, the average occupations, what articles do well, what kind of stuff does well in their magazine and on their website, what kind of traffic they get, where their circulation is. And that's a huge insight into people who are reading stuff in print. You're not going to be exactly the same, but the fact that that's out there for you, and they've done a lot of data mining that you can't do as a do-it-yourself marketer, that's super useful. I pay attention to ages, but it's not like a deciding factor. if you can see that most of the people in your website are in your mid-40s and they're fairly educated, that might shape the language that you use. But for the most part, most topics are not super age specific. I mean, maybe if you're blogging about places to go on your retirement, it's age specific.
Right.
But there are some things that matter more than others. And what really matters in a blog community is not the very sterile age, occupation, geographical location stuff. It's more the what are they talking about, what do they want to know, and why do they want to know it that makes a big difference.
So then how does all of that influence your writing style? Because you can't be throwing out jargon like bay and sick and dank and whatever else those young people say. If your audience is over 40.
Oh,
I mean, you can, but you're going to lose some of them.
And your mom's going to be asking you at dinner, like, hey, so what were you talking about there?
I know.
What's a dank?
I still don't know. I've just heard my granddaughter say it. That's all.
That's one of those things you probably shouldn't put on your blog under any circumstances.
No.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you're super conversational and you're using, you know, these expressions, I mean, how does that influence your snark level? Like, I'm known for some snark. I know it's hard to believe. Hold back the shock.
I make the occasional inappropriate joke, too. And some of that is in response to my readers, and some of that is in spite of my readers. I just got to say that. So it makes a difference based on what they're responding to, for one thing. In general, industry jargon is a no-no.
Yeah.
Because by its very nature, every single blog attracts beginners in the industry, whatever you're blogging about. Never assume that people know anything. I don't care if you are blogging about expert stock trading, you need to have something on your blog that at least defines the terms that you're using to make it more accessible for people, because it's very easy to sound pretentious and to talk down to people by accident because you assume that they know what you know, or because you've been blogging about this for 6 years and you wrote 10 or 15 beginner pieces.
I just want this quote, like, forever ingrained in our memories. Never assume people know anything. In this world of WordPress and technology, where PHP said like a drinking game, I just love this. If we were on Blab, I'd be giving you thumbs ups or whatever it used to be. Applause.
I work in IT, and I never assume the people that are working on the things that they're doing, that are asking me questions, know anything. Because for one, they're asking me a question. So because they're coming to me and saying, hey, how do I do this thing? And I just like, dude, the words that are coming out of your mouth right now, you could type them with quotation marks around them in Google. And the thing that I'm going to Google right now, because I'm going to do the exact same thing, is going to tell you the answer as long as you skip the advertisements at the very top of the page. And it's just like, oh my goodness. I love the idea that you're talking about earlier regarding magazines and using magazines' ability or inability to get advertisers as a way to figure out, okay, what is it that 17 magazine is actually targeting? Is it really 35-year-olds that think they're 17, or is it really 17-year-olds?
35-year-olds who still think that they're young. That's awesome.
So it's like that sorts of things. So like, I guess the other thing that you could do too is, I guess you could look at sites that are popular within your space, and then look at their advertising pitch books and say, like, what is it that they're trying to look for? Oh, they're telling you that their demographic is blah 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 blah, and they've either done surveys or what have you, or they've went and said, well, I started looking through Google Analytics and mining this stuff out, and this is what I figured out. So I guess you can do it online as well, right?
Yeah, you can do a lot of that online. The magazine websites, they call them media kits or press kits. They have tons of useful information in the press kits. They'll tell you, what people are searching to come to their website most often, all sorts of really useful stuff. You have to dig to get to that. And it's in the for advertisers section because they want to make that available for people who would like to pay $10,000 for a 2-page spread.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you what their circulation is and what kind of results you can expect to get for that. They'll even tell you the return on other people's advertising investments, and you can look at their ads and see what's doing well with that audience. So super useful if you're good at reverse engineering Another gold mine is other people's blogs that are popular, that get a lot of interaction in the comments. Once individual bloggers get big enough that they can't keep up with every single individual comment, I'm thinking like a Bakerella is the girl that makes cake pops. She has a really huge audience. She has a line of toys at Toys R Us. She makes cake pops for movie premieres and stuff. So she still interacts with her audience as much as she's physically capable of doing. But there's a lot of people in there that she can't address. So if you're in the cute dessert space, I guess that's like a field, cute desserts, then you could go through her blog comments and see what people are wanting to know that she can't respond to, and you can be a supplement to that. And if you're serving her audience, then she's very likely to share your stuff with them too. Scott of Vital Vegas, he loves it when people pay attention to what he's blogging about and his demographics, and then write stuff for his audience so that he can share it and give them more value on his Facebook pages and social media. So he's like, here, please have some traffic, because that makes me more valuable because I'm the one bringing all of this stuff to them, and it's good for my audience. So when you get the really good bloggers who are serving their audience, they're just an absolute goldmine. Go through their comment sections. A lot of them have forums on their blog, and go through those forums. You know, see what questions they're getting asked a lot. And I love looking at forums and seeing what questions come up, 2 or 3 times, because nobody goes to a forum to ask a question without Googling it. Nobody. Like, who wants to go to a forum and ask a question and wait for strangers on the internet to give you an answer that may or may not be correct? Yep. Just look at the answers that come up in Facebook groups, and you're like, oh, geez, Lou, like, they need me.
So do you ever look at Quora as a gold mine of topics?
I have dug through Quora a couple times. It's great for some topics and not great for others. You kind of have to look through and see what's there in your niche. In marketing and in business, you see a lot of old information that's still very popular. Like in the blogging world and in how to monetize your blogs, there's a lot of people still saying, well, to monetize your blog, you just build an audience and you put affiliate links and ad space on your site, without recognizing that now that's paying like, 5 and 10 cents per click on stuff. And you have to have these huge, huge, huge traffic numbers to get any conversions at all. You have to have a lot of marketing skill to do that. And if you have an audience of millions of people so that you can make money doing affiliate marketing and ad spend for the average blogger, you could be making a lot more money if you had your own products and services, or you were monetizing in different ways and being a little more creative with it. So there's a lot of, romanticism and a lot of people who just don't stay with the marketplace, and that creates advantages for bloggers who are on top of it too. So look for outdated information and serve your audience better by saying, hey, here's all this stuff that's super outdated, still popular information, but this is going to serve you better. It's kind of like the skyscraper technique, except it's more personalized to a group of people and getting it out there and saying, here is the most valuable information at the time, rather than trying to get link backs with the skyscraper.
I think we were talking about the skyscraper on WP Tonic on Saturday. This sounds really familiar to me.
So the skyscraper technique.
Until Saturday.
I think the skyscraper technique was invented by Brian Dean from Backlinko, which, by the way, I love Backlinko. I think Brian Dean's great. Everybody should follow him. He's not going to pay me any money if you do, but I think he's great. And the skyscraper technique is built on, it's strictly SEO for getting links back to your site. And what you do is you go out and you find a website that has like an authority blog post about, this is all you need to know about marketing, or this is 100 ways that you can get discounts at a restaurant, or whatever. You find something that a lot of people have linked to on other blogs. You write a better post that has better or more recent or more quantity of information, and then you email all of the people who have linked to the old post and say, hey, I love your blog. I think you're doing great things. I see that you linked to this post, that the information is not as good. I've got this post here that I think serves better. And if you feel that it is better, I would really appreciate it if you would link back to my post.
Wow, that's like cold calling.
It sort of is. If you're heavy into marketing and heavy into SEO, it works great. It can be really intimidating if you're brand new and you're like, but 6 people have read my site so far, and 5 of them were my mom. Like it's a little intimidating, but it works. And some people do a little bit more of a soft skyscraper where they just do these authority posts and hope people find it without reaching out to strangers. Not as effective, but you still get these really cool posts. And if you're freelancing, you'll have businesses that ask you to do this for them. They will ask you to write an authoritative article and get people to link to it. So you really do have to send out the emails. And a lot of times you get a very positive response.
Oh. So what role does commenting on other blogs do to help your property?
Rule number 1 is don't spam. Rule number 2 is don't spam. Rule number 3 is don't pretend you're not spamming and spam anyway. And rule number 4 is don't ask stupid questions. So to elaborate, if you are going on other people's blogs and putting your link, first of all, you're a jerk. Second of all, people don't read like a muffin recipe and go, that was such a good muffin recipe. I'm going to go look through the comments and see if other bloggers have also written a muffin recipe so that I can go click on their post. People don't do that. You don't get a lot of traffic back. And you're burning bridges within the blogging community. You want to be friends with these people who are writing similar content for similar audiences. You don't want to be the jerk that's trying to steal their audience by linking throughout their comment section and kind of being a jerk about it.
Well, I don't mean sending a link to your post, but like saying, I really like this banana nut muffin recipe. Can I use gluten-free flour and still get the same effect? Or what?
So there's an
thoughts on using baking powder versus baking soda? Can I use, stevia instead of sugar? Like if you had a legitimate.
Mm-hmm. If you're commenting on somebody's blog, you should be commenting about their blog post and adding something to the conversation. I think you should do it. I think you should be commenting on people's blogs and being a good citizen. But you see a lot of people who are commenting and it's subtle spam. Like they're commenting about the blog post, but they're doing it so that they can draw attention to themselves. They are the kid that sits in the front of the college classroom and asks retarded questions just so that the teacher answers them and acknowledges their existence. That happens a lot. And it happens more in forums and groups than it does in people's blog comments, but it happens in the blog comments. And it's sort of like closet spamming. And that's another way you're going to burn bridges if you're doing that. You'll see it in Facebook groups where people are like, oh, I just launched my first business and I want to know if you guys prefer this logo or that logo. But you can tell that they're being really disingenuous. They don't give a hoot what you think. They're just trying to get you to click on their link. And that's not super cool. So definitely participate in the community and be a good community member 100,000%. You're automatically going to have your links in there most of the time because in WordPress, you enter your name and you enter your website. And a lot of times that shows up.
Right.
That's the only link you need in somebody else's blog.
Right.
I've had other people comment on my blog post and say, I love this. I've been following your blog for a long time. And you inspired me to write this post that I linked back to you. And sometimes they put the link and sometimes they don't. That's actually a really classy way to do that. Because what they're saying is, I'm trying to send traffic to your site. I featured you and I'm telling you about it here. And instead of saying—
So it's like a track back, but an actual track back of you. Yeah.
And they actually write a post that's inspired by this thing. And they say in that other post, this was inspired by such and such blog. And here's the link to the original blog post. That's super classy and that's okay. That shouldn't be like a strategy that you're doing all the time. But that's the only time I've ever seen somebody do a link in a blog comment that was like kosher, that was cool. It's not, I see that you wrote this blog post. I also wrote a blog post like this and I would like your opinion on it. Because no, you don't care about their opinion. And we know you don't care about their opinion. Don't be a jerk. And don't ask questions just to have a comment on there. Like contribute something to the conversation. You can state your opinion. You can be like, I baked these muffins and they were delicious. You can be like, this looks like an excellent recipe and I would like to make it on Sunday. Or you can be like, I think you made a typo in your description.
Just don't do that on my side, all right?
I really count on my audience to do my proofreading for me. Oh, my mom will tell me. I will get a phone call if I have a post come out. My mom will call me and be like, you wrote though instead of the.
Wow.
Like, oh. I'm glad I got a proofreader.
I compulsively proofread, but it's still hard to self proofread.
Yeah, you're always reading what you think you said instead of what you said.
Right. So.
Yep.
My friends that love me will send me direct messages. Everybody else points it out in public.
I get publicly proved. And hey, if somebody comments something like, yo, you've got this crazy typo in your blog post, fix it and then reply to the comment and say, hey, thanks for catching that. I'm glad you got my back, because you're building a relationship there. Even if people are commenting on your website, like, I hate you and you're a jerk, say, thanks, I'd really like to hear more about why, essentially. No, there's a right way to do this. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of emotional maturity, and you can tell when somebody like actually disagrees with you versus somebody who just wants to go hate on the internet because they're the kind of person that hates on the internet. If they're being abusive, you can kick them off your site. That's always your prerogative. But when somebody comes into your blog post, like I wrote a post about if you're getting hit on a lot while you're business networking, which I've had problems with, maybe you should make sure you don't have cleavage showing. You should probably not give people your phone number immediately, send them to your website, send them to an email address, etc. And these different defensive things. And I use the term creep in the blog post to describe a guy who's not taking a hint, or girl, because it's not a female-only problem. I've known guys that were good-looking that got hit on all the time while networking. And somebody commented, I don't think it's fair for you to call guys creeps because they're trying to get dates. Which is a valid point. A guy that's out there trying to make friends or meet girls is not necessarily being creepy inherently, but a guy who's...
Do you write long tail keywords often?
Tell me about your t-shirt.
That was so weird.
So Bridget, have you called that guy back yet?
I don't think that was really
I'm sorry, I just took a horrible left turn.
Bridget's waiting for the link back.
You broke Bridget. You broke Bridget. Oh my God. I never even thought of that. I'm so excited. You made somebody with a nonprofit.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure it's completely innocent. Probably. Probably.
Oh,
you'll know if you get a text message in the morning.
I know, right? Well, I didn't have my business cards. I'm so excited. These are the first business cards I got in my whole life. And I haven't taken them out of the package because I'm so excited. So I didn't have them.
These ones are pristine.
Yeah, it's like the first. It still smells like a new car.
You know how people like frame the first dollar that they made in their restaurant? You could frame your first business card, put it on the wall.
For sure, dude. I'm 43 years old. That's my first business card. This is awesome.
The day Bridget became official.
Yep, I'm officially an adult. Woo! Anyway.
In my high school, a bunch of kids made business cards with their name and phone numbers on them because they thought it was so cool. So like the senior class one year, everybody had a business card. We all printed them on our home computers. Like cut them out with scissors.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I did that. I did Moo once, but I mean the ones that the company actually made for me because they want me to represent them.
Kitty's been networking her whole life. She just walks around handing out business cards like nothing.
And my business cards had a fake phone number as a teenager.
Oh, that's even funnier. 867-5309.
It was a 555 number.
You could call me Jenny.
I didn't have minutes on my cell phone, and I wasn't going to give anybody my house phone, so I used a 555 phone number just so I could have the business card.
Oh, man.
Oh, that was classic.
Lying to men since 14.
That's a good tagline.
I should have put that in the post about getting hit on.
All right, get the sticky out. You got to write another one and stick it right behind you.
Edit it, because then Google will know it's fresher. So, thinking about fresh content. Not fresh content, but oh my God.
We will get on track eventually.
Consistently, how much does consistency play into your blogging?
Okay, it depends on what you're doing. Consistency is important, but consistency is more about what you can handle and what's giving value to your audience than like I need to do a weekly blog post. I'm a content person and I talk about content marketing, so it makes a lot of sense for me to have content all the time. So every Monday there's a blog post. I'm doing this interview series in October where there's an interview every weekday, And on Mondays, there's still a blog post in addition to that. So I'm a little swamped this month. I'm also releasing a workshop for November, so kind of pulling my hair out. But at the same time, people expect that. And if they start coming to your site when you've been putting out new content regularly and now you're not, they're going to think that you quit. They're going to think something happened. They're going to not trust you as much. So consistency is great. There's other companies that have their consistency is that they have a lot of products that they put out and a lot of trainings or a lot of other interactive things. And their blog is not their big draw. So what their people expect is if there's a topic that needs to be discussed, it'll be on the blog and they'll make announcements on their social media. But they're a lot more consistent about posting every day on their Facebook page or tweeting with people or doing these, vlogs or workshops and things like that. So it depends on your audience what you need to be consistent in. For most people, you're going to want to put blog content out on a schedule, but it does not have to be every Monday. It doesn't have to be every day. It can be once a month. You can have a schedule where the first of every month you have a blog post that helps people out.
Okay.
And answer the questions in the comments, and your audience will adjust to that eventually. I learned when I was writing an FAQ page, because I started to get this flurry of emails with all the same questions, and I was like, they're not necessarily blog post questions. Like, can I buy you a coffee is not a blog post. I'm not going to say no and have that be the whole blog post. But I can have an FAQ page where I'm saying, hey, if you are going to send me the email saying, can I buy you a coffee and pick your brain? I appreciate it, but no. And in writing that page and in going through looking at the emails that people sent me, looking at videos where I had spoken at meetups or WordCamps and seeing the questions that came up frequently there, kind of looking back over my career, I found a lot of things that I wasn't necessarily addressing well on my blog. And I wanted to be able to link to blog posts to elaborate on some of these questions, and I didn't have them. So I was able to fill out my content schedule for a couple of months so that I could answer these questions. And that's a great strategy if you're like struggling to come up with stuff to blog about right now, and you have been blogging on a schedule, you're weekly or every 2 weeks or every month, work on an FAQ page, or even just FAQs for yourself. You don't have to post it. And it'll give you a lot of ideas for what people are asking you that you're not serving them as well yet,
right?
But you could be.
So how do you see accountability, or like I have a blogging buddy, and that helps me because we will collaborate together. Actually, now I have a couple, and then I have another friend where we do the same, where we hold each other accountable for legitimately commenting on other blog posts. So how do you see like the freelancers buddying up with other people to kind of like keep it going? Because sometimes it feels so obvious to you. But when you say it to somebody else, they're like, yeah, well, I don't know that you blah, da, 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 da. Why don't you write about that? And then you're like, whoa, that's so obvious.
Participating in the community is huge. You'll get a lot of that feedback automatically by being part of your community. I love having accountability partners, but make sure your accountability partner isn't a slacker, because slacking is contagious. I've made that mistake, and I have been the slacker accountability partner. Sorry, all my fat friends. Like, just throwing that out there.
Right here.
And it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're working from home, like I've been working out of my house for about 2 years now. I've been doing this full time. And I've been self-employed before. There's an adjustment period where I don't have to get up at X o'clock in the morning and put on pants and do things. I don't have to, but I probably should. Maybe not necessarily the pants, but I have to do things. And you have to figure out how to adjust in your own way. Setting your own schedule and being accountable to your own schedule is generally the starting point for that. If it's writing, the starting point for me when I was blogging and working on putting out content regularly was training my brain to be able to write when it was time to write.
Yeah.
Because you'll get blogger block, and generally blogger block isn't a lack of ideas as much as it's a lack of motivation, where you're sitting in front of your computer with your fingers on the keyboard thinking, I would rather be having a Brazilian wax and a root canal at the same time than writing this blog post.
Oh my God.
Sorry for the graphic image.
I've had one of those.
Oh man.
I should have like put a little censorship thing at the bottom of this page. You never know what I'm gonna say.
It's fine. Like the words weren't bad. It was just an analogy I wasn't quite prepared for.
The mental image is a little graphic.
Either way, it's the painful experience.
Yes. And your brain will rebel against you. So here's something to think about. If you've ever been on a diet, you know that diets are not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. I have lost about 80 pounds from my heaviest. It's been over a period of about 3.5, 4 years now that I've lost all that weight. And a couple of weeks ago, I looked back and realized that if I go to a restaurant and I sit down and say, hello, yes, I would like the fried everything sampler with extra cheese, please. It's exactly the same actions and the same amount of effort as saying, I would like the broiled fish and rice pilaf. The actions are the same. Literally the only difference is 5 or 6 words, depending on if you say extra cheese or not. The difference is the decision that you make. And it's a little eensy-weensy tiny decision. It's a little eensy-weensy tiny change, and it makes a huge difference. And being self-employed and building a business is like that. It is physically not difficult to write a blog post. It does not require that much physical effort. It is physically not that difficult to get up on a daily basis and go to your computer and write. It's mentally difficult. It's the same thing as mentally changing and saying, my relationship with food is different. I don't eat because I want to get this emotional gratification. I eat because my body needs it. By saying, I'm writing this blog post because I'm responsible to my audience and I'm responsible for writing this blog post, even if you don't have an audience yet, that's a completely different mindset than I blog for fun, or I blog as a hobby, or even I blog for money. Because if you think, I'm going to blog to make money, I'm going to blog because I'm going to make a lot of money doing it, okay, you can make a lot of money blogging. I've seen people do it. You can make $10,000 in a weekend if you know how to do it and you've built the audience. But you're not going to make money immediately. And if that's your only motivation, you're not going to stick with it, because on the days where you're sitting down thinking, I would rather have a root canal, that money is not right in front of you. You're not going to be able to get it. And money is a tool anyway. Money doesn't do anything until you spend it on something. You got to know why you're doing this. And if you're doing it for the people in your demographic, you're doing it because you know that people are going to get something out of this. You care about this audience. You care about the impact that you're making. It's a much different mindset, and it's much easier to get through those accountability moments. You can also train your brain to get more creative on demand by setting aside 15 minutes at the same time every day and setting aside a separate spot in your house, putting a pen and paper there, and literally having a timer. When the alarm goes off, you go and sit down in your writing spot and you write for 15 minutes about anything. It doesn't have to be a blog post. It doesn't have to be useful. It doesn't even have to be legible or in good grammar. You just have to write something, because you're training your brain to be able to create this stuff on demand. And once you do that, it's like exercising a muscle. It's like learning how to play an instrument. It makes it so much easier when you're like, crap, I've got to write 6 blog posts for the next month and course materials and do work for my 2 clients, which is the boat I'm in right now. Woo! I love ambition. It makes it a lot easier to get through those moments. And it's not going to be all the time. You're going to have days where things are just flowing and you are in the zone and you could talk about anything, and take advantage of that. Shove everything else aside and sit down at your computer and schedule 5 or 6 blog posts ahead of time when you have one of those weeks where everything's rolling. And if you have accountability partners, again, make sure that they're not slackers, and don't slack on your accountability partners. And I find it very useful to have a community of people rather than just one that you're relying on. So you have a team of bloggers, and if you're doing something together, like saying we're all going to blog on this subject and link to each other. So you have a group project and you're accountable to these people, instead of an imaginary accountability where it's like, you know, I'm just telling you what I'm doing and you're going to hold me accountable because there's another person involved. Now they're actually counting on you to get this done because it matters for them. And there's a big difference there. Russ and I did a series, Cute Confessions. It's not on my blog anymore. It was on my old blog. I think some of the posts are still on his blog. But we would share stories about our lives and have our audiences vote to see who's cuter. By the way, it's me. I won. But it mattered, because when we said we need to have this post done tomorrow, we're going to link to each other, we had to have the post done because the other one was counting on it. So both of us created more content during that time because the other one needed us to.
Yeah.
Whereas just saying, you know, I'm going to blog on this and I'll check in with you on Monday and let you know that I did it, it's a little bit easier to shirk that responsibility. And we're not really nice to ourselves. We're good at shirking our own responsibilities to ourselves. We're like, well, we're only hurting ourselves. Right? It's okay to hurt yourself as long as you're not hurting other people. And that's where blogging for your demographic really comes in.
Thinking of your audience first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being accountable to them.
Mm-hmm. And giving them something useful. Rather than saying, I'm going to spit out something because I have to have a blog post on Monday, saying I have to give something good to them on Monday because they're expecting it and counting on it. And it's useful in their lives. Makes it a lot easier.
I think it's kind of taxing to be creative all the time, now that that's my job. So what do you do to cleanse the creative palette, so to speak? Because you can't create if you're not consuming.
I think if you're going to be blogging regularly, you should be reading a lot of blogs. You should probably like it, but you don't have to like it all the time. And take breaks. Recognize sometimes your body gives you signs that you need to stop for a couple of days. You can let somebody guest post for you. Guest posting is a wonderful strategy when you have blogger block. It takes a little bit of effort to go out there and say, hey, can somebody write a post for this type of audience that's useful to these people? Or reach out to other bloggers and say, do you want to guest post on my blog and I'll link back to you? Most of these bloggers will say yes, because they want their name out there more. They want to reach new audiences. It's good for both people.
Right.
And if it's a true guest blog, they're going to write the post for you and you're just going to put it up. You don't have to do any extra work. So that's a great way to kind of get your juices flowing, because their new perspective is going to spur your creativity. This is interesting. I have a friend named Noah Scalin. He's a professional artist in Richmond. Instead of being the traditional professional artist, I paint pictures, I make sculptures, I sell them. I'm going to type his name real quick. Noah. He teaches creativity as a skill to corporations, to companies, to individual people. And he has it like a creativity consulting company. And every couple of months, he hosts something called the Creative Sprint, which is going on now through October. And it's 30 days where people sign up to participate. And every morning they get a prompt. And this prompt is, make something that'll fit in the palm of your hand, or make something inspired by a nursery rhyme. And all of these people submit on Instagram or in the Facebook group what they've created during that day. And you're accountable to the group of people. And you're also getting outside of your comfort zone and trying something new, and you have guidance. So they're building the creative skill that way. And a 30-day blog run, you should never do that in the moment. You should never, ever, ever go on your blog at the beginning of the month and say, for the next 30 days, I'm going to post every day, because you won't. I know this from experience. I am literally a professional blogger. My job is to blog every single day, and I can't sit down and write a post every day for 30 days on my blog. It just doesn't happen. You have to work ahead. You've got to get stuff scheduled so that when stuff happens, when a really cute guy asks you on a date and you're not going to say no, when your pet gets sick and you need to take him to the vet, when you get sick because you're stressed out and you really need that day to detox and you're listening to your body, you got to have some stuff in place to give yourself a buffer. Pressure is not great for creativity. And a lot of us say that it is. You know, nothing inspires action like the last minute. We always do stuff right before the deadline. But scrambling isn't particularly creative. So work ahead and rely on other people, because they're going to inspire you and they're going to take some of that load off of you. So Bridget, you could do that too if you're allowed to have guest posts. You can even do a guest post series.
I'm constantly, what's the word? Soliciting.
I've been begging. I'm doing this 30-day interview series.
Yeah. No, because for myself, I promised I would publish every Saturday morning at 9:15. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it since July. And, but for work,
Mm-hmm.
We publish 4 times a week.
That's a lot.
So it's aggressive.
Mm-hmm. I've done that for
we've
clients.
Been accomplishing it. We've been doing it, and it's been stretching my brain. But
it'll get easier with time and practice. But there's still going to be weeks where it sucks.
Yeah, because it's also a brand new subject for me. Like, I'm not a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag not a dev forever. So.
Content people. Woo!
I know, right?
Hey, I hit
words
record.
in the boxes that you build.
I hit record. I don't have to write anything, but I hit record. I'm thinking content.
Oh, man. No, you do. I mean, you're doing 2 shows a week.
Yeah.
When you're not doing hallway track, and when you're not doing, show and tell.
It'd just be nice if I actually blogged about the thing that I did. That's
tricky. It takes longer.
Yeah, it takes longer.
I never planned to have a blog about blogging. I thought it was kind of a lame idea. But then so many people were Googling me and then sending me messages through my blog like, well, how do I learn about what you were talking about? How do I learn about this? How do I start a blog? How do I make money blogging? And finally, I'm like, you know what? I can't answer all these emails.
Yep. So do you have a length sweet spot with number of words? Do you have strong opinions on the length?
I have a very strong opinion on the length of blog posts. You should write until you're done saying what you're going to say, and then don't write anymore.
That's your version of it depends. A non-committal answer.
It is more specific than it depends because everybody has this sweet spot that they aim for. Well, you have to have 300 words to be in Google, but like 1,000 to 4,000 words tends to show up better. And look, if you are writing for robots, you're not connecting with people. If you are doing that thing where they teach you to do in high school, your essay has to be 5 pages. So add a bunch of BS in the middle to make it longer. That did not do anybody a disservice learning to write in school. When you learn copywriting, which is writing that is designed to make somebody have some action, generally it's marketing, but it can be any kind of writing that's designed to inspire somebody to do something. Online dating profiles are copy. Junk mail that you get for catalogs or for mail order stuff, that's copy. Websites that are like, email us here and ask your questions, that's copy. So when you learn copywriting, one of the first things they say is you have to be concise, say what you're going to say in the least amount of words possible, get to the point, and be clear. If you can be clear in 4 words, never use 6. Because the more fluff you have, the less interesting you are, the less powerful you are, and the less valuable it is to the people that are reading it. Everybody has lives. We all have 24 hours in a day, and we all have other things we would like to be doing with them than reading fluffy, flowery language because you wanted to get to 1,000 words on your blog post, or listen to you go off on tangents that aren't helpful at all. So some topics are going to be super in-depth, and you're going to have a 4,000 word blog post. Some topics are going to be 500 words, and you're done. I write humor posts for one blog that I'm working with, and they're generally between 500 and 1,000 words. On my own blog, they're usually between 1,000 and 4,000 words because I'm teaching a more advanced topic. On my mom's blog, they're usually right around 1,500 because we're sort of in depth, but a lot of it's prompting people to do something else. There's copy there. So posts are always going to vary. Don't ever aim for a word count. I don't care what Yoast says. I don't care what Google says. You will do way better if you're focusing on what's useful for people than what's going to get you SEO. Because if you write for spiders, you're not helping anybody.
I think Twitter helped me be a better writer because Twitter forces you to be concise. And I'm dead serious. I wish it was a joke. Because I taught algebra. I was a math science person. I was not a writer.
Well, we all make mistakes.
I know, right? I wish my English teacher, my 8th grade English teacher, Mr. Busio, could see my blog today. Because I was no good at writing. I just was no good at writing. Everybody always wanted me to expand. It was never long enough. I didn't do anything right except for the grammar part. So I started like proofreading people's books and stuff on the side just because I'm good at grammar. But then I just started doing this because it was easier like it's easier for me to just write it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like how just doing it helps you practice. Because I tell my friend Jen Miller all the time, because she can throw blog posts out like there's no tomorrow. Like it is like a root canal every single time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not getting easier for me. I've been doing it since 2009. Content marketing since 2009. Mm-hmm. And I swear to God, every single time it's like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. If you don't like
to talk, if you don't like to express yourself very much, it's harder to write, frankly. And most people who have a little bit more of a reserved personality and are people of few words have trouble writing the blog post where you have to be the center of attention the entire time. And it gets easier to do it, but it doesn't necessarily get emotionally easier. And that's okay. It doesn't have to.
It's just funny that now that's my job. I'm a writer. Like I had to say that with a straight face.
You could write about math. Just think of it as a word problem.
No, I know, right? So it's just funny, like to hear you say that, because I've been saying it that I can easily do about 750 words now, mm-hmm. and I'm usually done. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
But it took a long time of me. Our aggressive publishing schedule has also been like the Bridget needs to learn how to write faster, better program.
I had the opposite problem. I was super, super long-winded. I know you can't tell I like to talk.
No, not at all.
I hate being the center of attention. No.
Totally.
And I'm a violinist, so it's even worse. But I had the opposite problem. I used to have to cut stuff down and be like, okay, these 7 other topics don't need to be in this blog post. And the scariest thing I ever learned to do was get to the point.
Oh.
There's a copywriting technique. When I learned how to copyright, they taught you write your letter, you write your post, you write whatever you're going to do. And you walk away. Give it a day. Give yourself time to forget what you meant to say so you can read a little bit easier what you were going to say. And then read slowly through the post and take note of where you get to the good part. You know, every story kind of has that part where it gets going. You get to the point. Yeah. You're like, yes, I get it. I'm there. Okay, so you find that good part, and then you highlight all of the text before the good part, and you delete it.
No.
All that stuff that you took time to write, backspace it out. It's so hard, especially for a prima donna who thinks every word that comes out of her mouth is gospel, to be like, oh, I only got to the point halfway through the post, delete. But you know what? It makes the writing so much better because you're starting at the good part. And when you do that and you go back and read it again, you realize that all that stuff in the buildup, it wasn't necessary. You were getting yourself going. You weren't really walking people into it.
Can you imagine if they did that with all the Spider-Man movies? There would be like 4 minutes worth of actual movie.
Like the Batman versus Superman movie with a dream sequence within a dream sequence.
Right.
I just had this conversation with people last night too. It's kind of circling back.
Yep. No,
I was thinking of British movies that take 20 minutes to figure out who all the characters are.
Right.
Or
I'm not really a superhero person.
Those books where you read the reviews and it's like, well, it's a little slow to get going, but about halfway through it really gets into its stride. Okay, so I only need to read half of this book.
So how long do you think people should write before they expect any kind of results? I mean, when you start a business, people are like, 3 years. I mean, what do you tell your people?
Okay, so generally it's a year to start really getting your stride in blogging. And the caveat to that is it's a year where you're actively trying to get better, you're posting regularly, and you're learning on purpose. If you are blogging as a hobby blog and having an online journal and you don't care who's reading it for a year, you're probably not actually going to get better. Sort of like if you learn to play a musical instrument, if you never get lessons and you never figure out how it's supposed to sound, you never actually get better. Mm-hmm. Practice isn't magic. Guided practice is magic.
Practice, right.
Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Whatever you do a lot, you're going to build the habit of doing that.
Right.
So if you're practicing sucking, it's going to be harder to get out of sucking later.
7 times harder.
Yeah, a lot. And if you come into blogging having been a writer before, it's going to be really uncomfortable to unlearn your writing habits of, saying to whom instead of who are you talking to, or writing in paragraphs with indented first lines instead of giving people space so they can read on a phone screen, using pictures to tell part of the story instead of describing everything in great detail. Blogging isn't writing, blogging is blogging. So you've got to be able to learn that skill. And you wouldn't expect to pick up a violin and walk into a concert hall today and have people pay money to hear you play the violin. It's the same thing with blogging. Intentionally get better over time, and you will get better. But also recognize that at least the first 6 months, you're going to suck. And it's okay. We all suck. Some people never get past sucking. The fact that you recognize that is wonderful.
What about an editor? Should you hire an editor? People hire business coaches.
I think you should read a lot of other people's blogs. And the most valuable thing you can do is look back a few months ago and see what you were blogging and see if you still think it's good. Because if you read your old post from a year ago and you think they're excellent still, you're not growing. You can get critiques. If your audience isn't growing, you probably know you need to make tweaks. You can go to people like me and Neil Patel and Dean of Backlinko, who has a lot of stuff on SEO. You can go to Moz, MOZ.com. And Moz has a lot of information about how to be an ethical blogger and white hat SEO and how to make the web a better place. That's their strategy, make the web a better place. I really like them. And you can work on one thing at a time. It's really daunting to try to say, I'm going to be a better blogger, so I'm going to do everything better tomorrow. You can't. You can't learn every skill all at once. So learn one at a time. Start learning how to make your posts more readable. And then start learning how to get to the point quickly and do that scary thing where you cut out a big chunk of text. And then start learning how to do keyword research. And then start learning what value means, what it means to bring value to your audience, and start figuring out who your audience is at some point. There's a lot of skills that go into it. Just like when you're learning to play a sport, you've got to learn how to kick a soccer ball properly, but you also have to learn how to run without hurting yourself, but you also have to learn what the positions mean. And you can't learn everything all at once. You have to focus on one skill at a time.
Right.
And, Bridget, you have an animal and I want to pet it.
Oh, that's Chloe. She's the mama dog. Well, she's telling me it's almost 9 o'clock. That's what's happening.
I have a rabbit. He's locked up.
I have dogs.
So focus on getting better gradually. It's okay that you're not very good now because nobody's reading you yet, so nobody can see you sucking. It's a wonderful thing. And you'll get better with time. And work with other people if you want to. Blogging is kind of, we think it's solitary because we sit at home behind computers. We're not really wearing any clothes or pants. We probably haven't brushed our teeth yet. And here we are making interpersonal connections with other people around the world. So there's this weird dynamic. And honestly, it doesn't matter what your blog skills are. If every time you write a blog post, you're thinking about the person who's going to read it, you're going to do better. And your heart's going to be in the right place, and that's going to come through. So you don't have to be the best writer in the world. You don't have to be good at SEO. You don't have to know business tactics and copywriting and content marketing and all of the stuff that we like to talk about because we're nerds. You really just have to know, why does somebody want to read my blog, and how can I give that to them? And you'll be great. You'll be better than 90% of bloggers on the internet, even if you can't spell. Other people will tell you that you spelled something wrong, so don't worry about it.
Or use all the proper grammars.
Right. Hey, blogging grammar is different than normal grammar. Blogging grammar is written the way you speak, whereas formal writing is written with proper grammar. And there's a big difference. Yeah. As somebody who used to write short stories and essays a lot and form letters for mortgage companies, blogging was a huge adjustment. Because if you write like that in a blog post, you sound pretentious. Right, you sound like you're writing a legal brief, and nobody wants to read that. Nobody reads legal briefs for fun. I was in law school. Legal briefs are not fun.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, it is supposed to be more conversational.
Mhm.
But I do try to like hold on to my Oxford comma.
I still occasionally throw out big words by accident, not realizing I did it. I read a lot of books, and I read a lot of stuffy, pretentious books. So sometimes I'm stuffy and pretentious, and people just have to deal with it a little bit. But I also make fart jokes, so
It balances out.
I have pictures of me in footy pajamas holding a rabbit, checking text messages, and I have words like perspicacity.
That sounds like a spelling bee. Perspicacity.
I can spell perspicacity.
Can you give me the part of speech? Oh, yeah. I wasn't good at Scrabble either. My husband used to beat me by 200-point margins every single time.
I accidentally Scrabble in other languages sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
And people are like, that is not a word. And I'm like, it totally is. And they're like, what language? I'm like, oh, wait. Sorry, that's Portuguese. Let me take that off.
Wow. This has been a really informative and entertaining show.
Totally. It sure has.
That's like my brand slogan. Informative, entertaining.
Entertaining.
Footy pajamas, tacos, perspicacity. So we have like 12 minutes left. I saw somebody in the chat say that they struggle with being concise and writing fewer words.
Yeah.
So I can give just a couple of quick tips on how to pull that off. Step one is to go back to your verbs. Anytime you have a verb in a sentence, I think we all know what a verb is, right? That's the part where you're doing something.
Action words.
Yeah, and make sure that they're action verbs. So if you're talking around the point, go through sentence by sentence and say, how can I get to the point faster? How can I say this in few words and have it be direct? I'm doing this, not I could be doing this at some time. The next step is to look at your lines and your paragraphs as a whole and see if you've been redundant. So I have a bad habit of trying to explain something and saying it like 4 different ways to make sure that I'm being clear. And I don't need to do that. I don't need to restate things. I don't need to be redundant. And I was redundant on purpose.
Yeah, Ghost wouldn't like that. They don't like it when but you have 3 sentences in a row that start the same way. I'm like, I did that on purpose. I will take that orange light with pride. So passive voice. So then
look for passive voice, look for redundancy, and then look for tangents. Look for places where you're getting off of the point. And you can cut out a lot of that at the beginning if you outline your posts before you write them. I know that's super nerdy. A lot of us like to just sit down and free flow and then edit later. You can do it however you want to do it, but outlining will help you get to the point faster and stay on point.
So do you cut out a lot of the tangents. So when you start out with that outline, do you start from the beginning and work your way down? Do you start in the middle and work your way up and then back down? What's your tactic for that? Because I've heard different ways of going about doing those outlines.
It's a personal preference thing. Generally, I've been blogging for so long and writing structured blog posts for so long that I'm pretty good at intuitively starting at the right point, and then I shift things as I go. So I've got notebooks sitting on my desk where I've got everything outlined, and there's like little drop downs that say what I'm going to talk about in what section. And I can move them around as needed. I can add stuff. I can get rid of stuff. And then after I do the outline, I kind of reorganize it to the way it makes sense. I'll brainstorm title ideas and maybe a couple subheadings. I'll do a little bit of keyword research, and then I'll write my post based on the outline. And sometimes you still change it when you write your post. But when you've got it written down like that, you've done a lot of the planning, the post goes a lot faster because you're not thinking, okay, what's the not logical next step?
Yeah.
And as you're writing the outline and you're in that big picture mode, it's super easy to say, here are the logical steps that I'll take. Whereas after you've been bogged down in the details in one thing, it's a lot harder to move on to the next point because you're in the details, you're not in the big picture. Tim Ferriss talks about when he gives like keynote presentations, he always uses the same formula: 2-minute intro, 10-minute topic 1, 10-minute topic 2, 10-minute topic 3, 2-minute wrap up, and questions. You can do the same basic thing with your blog posts. Mine don't usually follow the same structure because I blog about a lot of different topics. So some of them have like 15 sections because they're super in depth. Some of them have 2.
Yeah.
But outlining ahead of time keeps you from going on tangents, and it makes the writing process a lot easier.
Yeah, that helps me if I go like, okay, I'm going to cover this, 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 and this. Then it kind of, because my trick almost, like I don't formally outline. When I go, I know I need to cover this, 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 and this. Then I go, well, I might as well just go back and fill in these sections. And then I sort of trick myself into finishing it.
I've started in the middle of blog posts before too, because sometimes you get that like idea in your head that's like a bug, it won't go away. So you sit down and you write it in the draft and you leave it alone for 6 months and come back later and go, oh, I could build a blog post around this. I
usually get like joke headlines, like 2004 called, and they want the PayPal button back.
If you could write a blog post like that, I would share that on every single platform.
I did. It's on Medium.
Will you tag me?
I didn't want to put it on Give because it was too snarky, but I'm like, we love you too much. And then I said, please don't use PayPal. We love you too much. Like do this.
I literally got paid $100 to write a blog post that was 100 pickup lines with things like, there used to be 8 planets in the solar system, but tomorrow there's going to be 7 because I'm about to smash Uranus.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I got paid $1 for that.
$1.
Hey, it's $100 for the blog post, 100 pickup lines, $1 per pickup line. So you can use that and say that line's worth $1.
Right. So was that from BuzzFeed?
No, I should write for BuzzFeed. No. Actually, I had an opportunity to write for BuzzFeed, and then I realized that they pay $25 a post.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What? At the time they did. They might pay more now. Cracked will pay you between $100 and $400 a post if you go through their contributor system.
Wow.
And anybody can submit to Cracked, but you have to go through their system with their editors, which is time consuming. You can also write for MapQuest's new thing, Parachute. They accept pretty much all the writers. It's travel writing. And they pay between $15 and $25 a post. It's nominal, but to have your name on MapQuest, it's kind of helpful. So you can write like 10 posts and never do anything else and say, hi, I wrote for Parachute.
Yeah, I didn't know MapQuest is still a thing.
Yeah, so I have no sense of direction at all.
Neither do I.
I got lost on a straight road last night. I'm not even joking.
Yep. No, seriously. At LA, I have to tell you this. When we went to the speaker sponsor dinner in LA, so Jen and I parked at this church, and we were taking pictures of the graffiti, or whatever, street art, or whatever it's called. So
it's graffiti, it's LA.
So when Alex Vasquez walked us back, he said, where are you parked? And we're like, well, by that one lady blowing bubbles. And we're looking at her Instagram to find the picture of where we parked. And we were laughing so hard. And I said, the funniest thing is, Jen and I are stone cold sober. Because that's how lost I get. But we did find it because I did find the lady who was blowing bubbles.
Last night I was going to somebody's house. It's like a 10,000 square foot white marble mansion, and I couldn't find it. On the road, straight road that it's on, and he's like, there's 5 houses on this street. How do you not see my house? I'm like, will you turn the lights on? Will you go outside and wave?
You're shooting flares off, and you're like, I don't know where it's at.
He's like, it looks like a museum. How can you miss it?
Yeah, I get lost in Disneyland. I get lost everywhere. I get lost in malls. It's really bad. Yeah, that's why I made my people go with me to Cincinnati, because I said I'm not going by myself. I'll get lost. I'll never find the word camp.
I live by myself in Las Vegas.
I'll just say, here's my Instagram post. I'm right here by this graffiti.
I get lost in the casinos and on the Strip in Vegas, and I'll be like in the casino, like I need to find the out. I need to go outside. How do I get outside? And the guard will be like, literally, you just walk straight down this line. There's a sign that says Las Vegas Strip, and I'll be like walking around, and 10 minutes later, I'm back in the same spot, and I'm like, what the heck?
I don't have the blue dot in my head. I don't know where I am.
I need you to walk with me and be like, the door is here.
We should never be together, Kitty, because we would both get ourselves lost. That would be terrible.
We'll just bring snacks so that if we're super lost, we'll be able to eat.
Yeah, and our computers, because we could definitely blog our way out.
Yeah, definitely don't use dollar bills as breadcrumbs. That doesn't work in Vegas.
Oh, this has been so much fun. Thanks for taking Jason's invitation and spending an hour and a half with us on a Thursday night when you could have been watching sports ball.
Yeah, I have no idea if sports are even on Thursday nights.
Thursday night
I
football?
watched one television show.
Oh, really?
I watched Dancing with the Stars and nothing else, literally.
You don't even watch Netflix?
Not
it's
really,
all that
no.
reading. It's ruining you.
I saw Breakfast with Tiffany's the other day.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic movie that makes no sense.
It's like the original Hot Mess.
It's such a downer. She's just beautiful in it. That's the only thing that's good about it, and Moon River.
Yeah, but the other movies that she's in are wonderful.
Here's the thing with Google, though. Everybody always tells me this. Okay, Jason Tucker got me on Waze, so that helps. But let me tell you something. If you don't orient the map correctly,
yes,
it's not going to work. Because I was getting lost in downtown LA because I didn't know do I hold my phone straight up and down? Or do I turn
Bridget, you need to go get a Sharpie, and you need to draw an arrow on the top of your phone pointing up.
I don't understand why it's not always pointing. It should be the north, the top of the phone.
No.
This is total bullshit.
That's not what you do. You don't want the north to be on the top of the phone. You're not always driving north.
I'm looking at it.
You're not always driving north.
My friend gave me this compass after I got lost in the woods and had to call the police to come get me.
How do you make it work? That's
See,
another episode.
it tells me what way north is, but it doesn't like point to my car. How does that help me?
I don't get it.
Oh my God.
On the next episode of WPblab, Jason Tucker teaches everyone how to use a compass.
Sponsored by Automatic. Automatic.com. You can go over to the website and you can go download the little thing and install it in your car. And make
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you get lost, at least you'll know you have a video to watch.
Oh my goodness.
Just the other day, I was in a parking lot and I turned on my GPS and it was like, head north. And I'm like, what way's north?
What way is north?
It's nighttime. How do you tell north?
Hey Siri, which way is north?
I can't breathe.
Hey Siri, which way is north?
Oh man, I'm the worst.
See, she's telling you where's north.
I don't have Siri. I use Android. And Cortana's not very useful.
Oh man,
Folks, that's about it.
And women kill
that boy up. That's about it, folks. Go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com. Click on all the links there to go check everything out. Kitty's site will be linked over there, so feel free to go over there and check it out. You can go over to kittylusby.com and check out that as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, I really appreciate it. Click the little thumbs up button. We love it when you tell us that we're doing awesome work. And if you, as Kitty was saying, you should probably leave a comment. Go leave a comment down there. And if you're watching this on our website, you're watching this on somebody else's site, or you're watching this over on YouTube, please do that. I kid you not, I swear, at some point here, this thing will turn into an audio podcast and you'll be able to listen to it. It is going to happen. It will happen, folks. I know I've been getting email after email after email about people wanting me to do this. It will happen. That's about it, folks. Go over to the website. Talk to you later. See you later. Bye-bye.